Okay, guys, I wanted to go over the expectations with you before we dive into our lesson for today. So let's start with you're going to have chapters to read every week. This week is chapters 1 through 6. You need to read them and then have everything done so that we can move through the work and move on to the next chapters the next week. Check your classroom each day for that day's assignment. It'll be posted at 9, so you can check for it after 9 o'clock in the morning at any point. Now, we only have class technically Monday through Thursday. So I'm only assigning things Monday through Thursday, but I'm also giving you Friday. So all of the week's assignments have to be turned into me by Friday at 9 p.m. If you're smart, you're doing each assignment each day, and then you're done by Thursday, and Friday's all yours. If you procrastinate, you're going to end up doing work on Friday. But at 9 p.m. Friday, I'm taking the first week's assignments down, so you have to get it done. If you have questions, make sure you're communicating with me through Google Classroom. Send me an email. The phone number to my school phone is on the Google Classroom, on the stream. Just look at the top banner, and you'll be able to take care of it. But don't let things just sit. Make sure you're reaching out to me. Okay, let's dive into the lesson. Fever 1793 is obviously done in 1793. This is at the beginning of our country. What I wanted to focus on for this is actually going to be a little bit prior to the book, because I want to focus on the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the things that made our country what it is, because at that point, they have characters in the book that deal with the Revolution, that are dealing with the Constitution, that are dealing with the early Republic. So I figured the Constitution would be a good place to start. Let's talk about why the Constitution had to be written. We're going to start by looking at what we had first. The Articles of Confederation were the first form of government in America. They were written in 1781. So we fought this war. We said we have to have some sort of government, but we hate all central government because we'd had a king that imposed his will on the people, and they didn't have any choices. And they did not want one person making the decisions for everybody, or one group making the decisions for everybody. As a result, they had one branch of government, the legislative branch, and they could only declare war, make treaties, and borrow money. Note, they can't do anything to pay back the money. They can't make any laws. All of that is basically left to the states. The states are going to start creating their own currency. So every state has like Rhode Island dollars and Georgia dollars and things like that. So there's all kinds of craziness surrounding money. We can borrow money as a country, but we can't pay it back because we don't have a way to raise money and earn it. And as far as making treaties, there's not a lot of strength in the federal government, so countries are hesitant to make treaties with us. It had a lot of weaknesses. I mentioned the taxes. They could not pass tax assessments. So they couldn't, like today we pay income taxes or there's sales taxes and things like that. But the government didn't have any power to do that at the time. The states had way more power than the national government because they created their own laws and their own governing bodies and their own rules. And it could vary from state to state. So it was hard to keep track of. There was no executive branch to enforce the law. We didn't have a central form of government. We certainly didn't have a judicial branch to make sure the laws were correct. So all we had was people barely making some rules, and at the federal level, and then we would go down to the state level for specific stuff. The government couldn't regulate trade, which means when Maine wanted to sell lumber, they could make their own deal going against another state that might want to sell lumber. Or if South Carolina has tobacco to sell, they can compete against Virginia or other cash crop areas. So it made it difficult for countries to trade with the United States because they really weren't trading with the United States. They were trading with individual states. 9 out of 13 states had to approve any changes to government. Very difficult to get 9 of 13 states to get together and approve things. That overwhelming majority was going to cause some problems. And we'll get to that in a little bit. But the bottom line was the articles were way too weak. So they came together and they said, we've got to come up with something better because it's not working the way it is. What they came up with was our Constitution. So I'm just going to talk the preamble right now, and we'll get into other pieces of the Constitution as we go. If you remember back to our actually studying the Constitution in class, this is not quite how we did it. But I'm going to take the Constitution piece by piece and make it a little bit easier to understand that way, I think. So the preamble is the introduction to the Constitution, and it's going to announce the purpose. Why are we writing this? Why do we feel like we need this Constitution? As you can see in the picture, it's very, very short. So I'm going to go through what we wrote and compare it to what that means. We, the people of the United States, this is all of us. This is not the states have decided. This is not the president, George Washington, has decided. This is the whole group of people of the United States doing this through their elected representatives. In order to form a more perfect union, that means to form a more united country. They recognize it's not working, we need to do better. Establish justice means to give justice to all people. Ensure domestic tranquility. To be tranquil is to be peaceful, so to keep the peace. Provide for the common defense, to keep our country safe. Promote the general welfare means to help people. They believed that the government's purpose was to help people. And ensure the blessings of liberty, which means to protect our freedoms and protect our liberty. To ourselves and our posterity is just for us and everybody who comes after. Do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. It just means this is what we're doing. We say this is correct. We're establishing this. This is going to be the law of the land. And that is it. That's how we're going to get started. You have a Google form that you need to answer to show me that you've read this and that you know that, that you watched this and you understand. And you have another assignment for the reading portion of today. So go ahead and take care of that. You can watch this as many times as you need to.